So today we want to look at what I call the great exchange, the great pneumatic exchange. There are things that when we come to the world gives us in exchange for what God has for us. So I want us to look at what the world has exchanged for what we came into this world with, or what God has for us. The first exchange that the world has exchanged with us is the exchange of God for man. So there is a great replacement of what I would call the imago Dei for the anthropo Dei. So God's image has been exchanged for the image of man. Now look at what the Bible says in the book of First Romans chapter 1. The Bible says in the verse 23, it says, "And man exchanged the glory of the immortal God for the images of mortal men." We, in this world, we place so much emphasis on ourselves, not on God who has created us. So we have exchanged the glory of God for the glory of man. In other words, everything about this life now starts from, ends with man and not with God. It is a great replacement that is going on in our generation. The other thing which is also going on in the world of exchanges is that of our ordinations. The Bible talks about the fact that in the book of Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, a verse that everybody knows, the Bible says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and I ordained you." So we came into this world with assignment, with ordinations. But this world, in place of the ordinations, a call to fulfill whatever we carry, this world gives us careers. So now it is the school, the academia that prepares us for what we carry, not what God or the church preparing us for what we carry. So you see, that is a second great exchange in this life. The first one is, in place of God, they give us man as the object of all things. The second thing is, in place of our callings, they give us career. Now let's look at the third thing that this world exchanges for what we carry. It is the giftings that we carry. Now you find that in this world, you go to school for training, that the world will give you academic certificate qualification. So some of us, we rush to go to school to go and get a degree, a master's, a PhD, and whatever. And those PhDs for most times can't fulfill the specific assignments that we carry. The Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 22, the Bible says, "Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? The why then is no healing for the wound of my people?" You can have a certificate, but you will not be able to fulfill an assignment that God carries for you. Let's say if I've not prepared myself and there's a demonic attack on my child. Now, I wouldn't have the spiritual capital and the resources to deal with that attack, even though I went to school for a certificate. So you see, in place of us building capacity, spiritual giftings, ordinations, scepters, horns, mantles, they give us certificates in place of what God has for us. Now let's watch the fourth thing that this world traps us in exchanges. The fourth thing has to do with the seasons we carry. You know, this world, for example, if Michael Jackson had to wait to be, let's say, 50 years or 45 to start his career, Michael Jackson wouldn't have been able to make the impact that he made. If, let's say, Bishop David Oyedepo started his ministry at, let's say, 40 or 50, he wouldn't have been able to build all these multinational, cross-country churches that he has built and spread all over the globe. So we come with specific time. There are times for our manifestations. This world tells us that we can manifest at any point in time that we carry. Listen to what the Bible says in the book of Luke chapter 19, verse 44. The Bible says, "They will dash you to the ground, and you and the children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation." We work within time. We have been sent on assignment. There are some things that we must do at a certain point in time. We can't just go about doing what we want to do at when we want to do it. We work with time. And this world doesn't care about that. In place of our spiritual seasons, they give us our working age. And then they tell you this is the time you're old. You'll start work at, let's say, 25 or 30. You'll retire at 60. But God's ordination, our timing can even start in our 20s, even in our 15s. Jesus said at age 12 that, don't you know that I must begin my work even at this age? So you see, let's see the last one that uh, God gives us, that the world exchanges for us. That has to do with the end of all things. Just like the beginning, the world tells us that the end of all things is the glory of man. But the Bible tells us that the end of all things is the glory of God. Most often in churches, you see people giving testimonies. And in their testimonies, it's always about what they got from God, what they got from their job, what they got from this world, but what we get, what we should celebrate is what God gets out of the world. What has God through us gotten for the church? What has God through us gotten for another believer? What has God through us gotten for the community? Listen to what the Bible says about this exchange. The exchange of the glory of God for the glory of man. The Bible says in Luke chapter 12, verse 19, the Bible says, and I will say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid out for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. The Bible says God rebuked this man who focused so much on what he got from this world and not what God got out of him. Let's go over all over this great pneumatic or spiritual exchange that the world exchanges for what we carry. The first thing that the world steals from us is that instead of making us perceiving the imago Dei, the world gives us the anthropos Dei. The second thing is our ordinations. Instead of the world asking us to go for our callings, the world asks us to go for our careers. The third thing the world gives us is in place of our giftings. Instead of gifting us asking us to go for our giftings, the world gives us certificates. And then the fourth thing is in our seasons. The world, instead of asking us to pursue God in the seasons that God asks us to do things, the world gives us working ages. And then the last thing that the world gives us in place of what we carry from heaven is in the end of all things. Instead of God being the reason why we do things, the world tells us that the glory of man, the American dream, humanism, is the reason why we do things. God bless you. I hope that you can see more from this and that God will help you to re-switch to what God has for you and I. Shalom.